Hey everybody, this is Perch, and something strange is going on. No, it's not me picking a fight with doll Twitter, which is a real thing apparently. Actually, not doll Twitter, but Bratz doll gender fluid Twitter. I don't know. It's been a weird weekend. Anyway, something odd is going on in actual comics, and it's. Let me kind of lay out a couple different facts for you, and it's enough to put a picture together, and it fits a picture I think we've been talking about, lots of people have been talking about. But where it gets muddled up is if you immediately jump to the content. Now, make no mistake about it, everything that I'm going to say, everything that's coming next, the base truth of it all is that if the content inside the comic books isn't exciting to readers, they won't come, they won't buy, and it causes problems. So obviously it's baked into everything. But if you jump immediately to the content argument, then suddenly you're in a subjective world of, well, I don't like it, well, I do, and then you really get nowhere. Unfortunately, it becomes a huge distraction to actually the issues that are going on. And a lot of bad actors have successfully made that pivot quite a lot lately. You see, in comic news when people are poking at the fact of like, hey, your numbers aren't accurate. Hey, you've changed how you're counting comics. Hey, some of these comic shops you say are opening aren't actually comic shops. When you get into those arguments, watch how quickly the person you're arguing about immediately turns it into subjective. Oh, so you're complaining about woke characters, whatever it happens to be. That is a distraction. That is distraction from the facts. What they want to do is get you into a no-win argument about whether the art is good enough or the writing is good enough or the characters or this or that. And none of that actually is in the world really of facts. Now, as I said, it's absolutely the undercurrent of everything that's going on, but it's a no-win situation. It's a dying battle. So here's kind of some of the odd things that are appearing, and it does paint a pretty consistent picture. Now, I've been in touch with a number of people, more lately from Marvel, who are talking about some of the changes that are going on, and there's a lot of nervousness within Marvel. The big nervousness has been just overall layoffs. A lot of big companies are laying off people. Obviously, we saw a lot in the last 2 weeks, but Disney has laid off and are certainly signaling that they're going to lay off again. Lots of people are told to expect it's coming. A lot of decisions are being put off at the moment because of this. So it's definitely that fear of layoffs is in the air. So people are talking. And one of the things that they're saying is, first of all, we're seeing the solicitations. So I'll give you a bunch of little facts, and as I said, you can string them together. So we're getting the solicitations early. Actually, somewhat surprisingly early. Now, solicitations don't have a set date, and they come out in different times, but Marvel's definitely jumped several weeks now by having April come out in mid-January. It's just a little early for it historically. We're about 3 to 4 weeks early from when they normally do it. Last year, April came out we're at the end of the second week of February. So we're 3 weeks early for getting these solicitations. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything on the surface, but another thing that's happened is that some of the advance orders, meaning, well, let me back up a second. One of the things that goes on with the solicitations is they basically get an early read on the orders for the comic books that they're making. And from that early read, they make certain forecasting and projection decisions. It determines how they send stuff to the printer, it determines order and other things. Now, one of the things that happened in 2022 was there was a huge push for Judgment Day, the big Avengers, X-Men, Eternals crossover. They put Kieran Gillen on as a writer, who they believed was probably one of the strongest bets they had, and it bombed. We can say pretty officially now, and this was part of what I was talking about with folks at Marvel, it came in less than half of what the projections were for that series. Now, where is that a problem, and what does that lead to solicitations? Well, when you're getting advance orders from the retailers to determine what you're going to take to print, you typically make a couple bets yourself. You make some estimates based on how you think things are going to go. You kind of have to do that if you're putting through the volume that Marvel's doing. And remember, they're publishing about 80 books a month. So you're kind of in a position where you have to make some early bets, or the entire supply chain that getting the comic book out the door starts to fall apart. Now, on top of that, you've got a number of different kind of odd signals from Diamond. Now, Marvel's moved to Penguin Random House, but Diamond can, in theory, still distribute through there. But Diamond lately, and this isn't just Marvel, hasn't been shipping the books that people order. You're expected to get a book on a certain week. It doesn't come. It may trickle in 2 weeks later. Was the book there or not? Nobody really knows. It's hard to say, but the numbers and the dates have gotten all wonky and all over the place. So going back to Marvel for a second, okay, so if you had this big event, which was pretty much their tentpole for 2022, it did not come in as expected. Furthermore, the early numbers for Sins of Sinister and Dark Web is out, Sins of Sinister is about to be, are about 25% lower than they were hoping for. So all of their, all of these kind of more major events are dropping. And when you look at the solicitations, when we walked through them earlier, you definitely see some evidence of that. You see a lot of indicators that there are problems. You see the highest number I think I've seen yet of limited series, the things being started with very little kind of commitments for long term. You're seeing a lot more facsimile editions and a lot more reprints. Again, more than they've done in the past. And the reprints in this case are not connected to a movie. Some are, but things like the X-Men reprints and other things, those aren't connected to anything. You're seeing more what we call inventory stories. So several of the comics in April, if you look really closely, these are comics that actually were put in the file cabinet that have been there for a while. They're not new stories. They're not anything that was paid for in the last year. They're remnants. The same thing is true with several of the variant covers. Their current kind of run of what they're doing there is leveraging on a lot of old art. In this case, art that was made close to 15 years ago. So again, there's a lot of what I would call inventory work going on, and you're getting solicitations earlier. Now, I guess I need to make it clear, what does solicitations earlier do for you? Well, it means you make even less, you have to make less early choices if you have more advance notice of where the orders are. And here's perhaps the two damning bits. So first off, what I've been told is that the solicitations are going to come earlier and earlier. And we're going to see Mays here in about 2.5 to 3 weeks from Marvel. That will be dramatically early. The other thing that I'm hearing, and I think is again, it's proving out by the, by what we're seeing on the charts, is that you're seeing a lot of, you're just not seeing a lot of commitments for new creators or new writers. You're seeing a lot less. You're seeing shorter contracts. You're seeing more remnant books. You're seeing things kind of carved up. You're not seeing the outlay of money to people. And when I talk to a number of creators, several of them have pitches or deals at Marvel that were accepted. They're now in limbo. So something people were complaining about from DC in 21 and 22, now a lot of people are complaining that nobody in Marvel is getting back to them, that it's quiet. And people who are not ostracized are not on the bad person list. It's just they're not hearing anything. So, and there's one more bit of data, and I'm having to kind of choose my words a little carefully. I was asked not to talk about, one of the pieces, which I think is concerning, but I'll throw this out. I have it on good authority that in this last month of December, that Marvel didn't get a title over 80K. Now that would be a first going back to the direct market. Even during the bankruptcy days, they had titles that were popping over that. If that is true, that is a disaster. So I'll wrap it up by saying this, because I'm just giving you a lot of little bits and pieces. I think the stories will become clear, but these are the indicators of things to watch. Watch the solicitations, watch the kind of comics that are put there, watch the creators that are being picked, and just kind of note what is happening. So it's starting to paint a pretty consistent picture of a company that is perhaps having more troubles than they've let on. And this goes as kind of my final comment to something I've said before. Marvel, the comics division, not the movies. Movies are, I would say are doing fine, but we are in this awkward moment between phases where, certainly the belief is that the Young Avengers, which are going to announce very shortly, and the Kang movies and some of the other bigger picture events are going to be big. They are expecting Guardians to do $1 billion. And I think that's a safe bet. But we are in this awkward moment where it's kind of between phases, very similar to the Marvel Universe around the Age of Ultron movie and moment where they had Thor Dark World, and it was in a place where the hits hadn't quite lined up yet. I think we are definitely another one of those. Now I do expect it to bounce back, but the licensing reportedly is taking a hit. The licensing kind of deals and people interested are are not doing as well. But very specifically for the comics, Marvel, unlike DC and unlike almost every other publisher, has done a pretty remarkable job of hiding their problems. You talk to any creator, anyone in the business, they'll tell you that Marvel keeps their dirty laundry internal. They don't show it. Even when times are tough, they have their stuff on lock much better. But that's not really the case right now. A lot of people are talking. There have been some missed checks, or at least creators have had to go push to get their money. Now, it's certainly an oversight. Marvel's not running out of money. But these are indicators of a company that's just not a well-operating machine right now. And you're hearing more and more people from inside the company starting to complain and point these things out. I've said before, I think there are more troubles at Marvel than people realize. And I think here in the next, it really feels like the next 4 to 6 weeks, a lot of bad news is going to break. So we'll see. Anyway, there you go. That's as calm and rational as I can do it. The more emotional response, and the one that's kind of on the top of my mind is, yeah, I think there are major problems at Marvel. Some major, major problems. And we'll see how all that works out. But when I have more data, I'll certainly bring it to you. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks for listening.